So in about an hour, I'm going to see Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse of Madness. First, I'm going to put gas, and I'm going to go to Chick-fil-A to buy a spicy chicken sandwich, bring that into the movie theater with me. I rewatched the first Doctor Strange last night. As for most Marvel movies, I only really ever see them in the theater. Like, I watch them one time, maybe two times, but I usually don't watch Marvel movies at home. They're just like a theater-type movie to me. But I watched the first Doctor Strange for the first time since the movie theater, and I don't love that movie. I love the first like 30 minutes when it's a movie about a very egotistical man trying to heal his hands and learning to be like a monk and guru and forgetting everything he thinks he knows and sort of breaking down that ego of Stephen Strange and, you know, turning him into more monk-like, more Aang-like. I just don't think I like Caecilius, and I think once the movie becomes about like Dormammu and this whole like extra shit, I was no longer into it. And I was watching it with my girlfriend, and she pointed out that Dormammu and that whole ending looked like those posters you have on your wall when you're like 14, and it's like super trippy with a bunch of colors, and you think it's really cool, and you're like, haha, I do shrooms, even though you've never done shrooms in your life. Trying to make a psychedelic movie for a 14-year-old who was pretending to have done psychedelics. So heading into this movie in about 30 minutes, I'm not over the moon excited for it. I think it'll be fun to see with a crowd on opening day. It's always fun to see a Marvel movie. Even though I'm excited for it being a Sam Raimi movie, I feel like no matter what director Marvel hires, they're just sort of a figurehead because it's really Kevin Feige's movie. So, like, you might have a little bit of Sam Raimi style in there, but at the end of the day, it's going to feel like a Marvel movie. It's going to be overlit. It's going to be overly CGI'd. It's going to have one too many jokes. It seems no matter what director they cast, they all sort of feel the same to me. But they do say that this is going to be the first MCU horror movie, and it is Sam Raimi directing, who did the Evil Dead trilogy and did one of my favorite underrated horror comedies, Fucking Drag Me to Hell. And he did also two of my favorite comic book movies ever, Spider-Man 1 and 2 with Tobey Maguire. So hopefully this movie will be awesome. Seeing it in about 30 minutes. Pretty hyped. I'm going to do a review when I get out of here. So peace. Alright, so it's the next morning. I'm back from seeing Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse of Madness. I'm just going to cut to the chase. I did not like this movie at all, really. This is probably one of my least favorite MCU movies there's ever been. And I was so excited for it because it was a Sam Raimi film. It was the first MCU horror movie. Have you ever seen Jaws? Do you remember the original Jaws by Steven Spielberg? Back when fucking movies had tension and build-up and suspense and they actually built to something. Jaws didn't start out in the first 5 seconds with the craziest fucking action scene where it's got the gasoline tank in its mouth and they're shooting. It didn't start out like that. This movie starts you out in an action scene in fucking space with multiverse shit. It starts out with CGI orgasms everywhere. One of the things I complain about the MCU is the overuse of green screen and special effects. I understand that these movies need a lot of action scenes, but what happened to real action? We don't remember these action scenes. I remember the action scenes from Mad Max Fury Road. I remember the action scenes from the Mission Impossible movies. I don't remember these action scenes that are 99% green screen and Benedict Cumberbatch running around. But listen, this movie starts out with an action scene in space with the America Ferrera girl, and it's just like insane fucking shit. And I'm thinking, if you're gonna start your movie out like this, like what did the audience come here to see? They came here to see crazy multiverse shit and action scenes with Doctor Strange. You're supposed to fucking tease them. You don't start out Jaws with the craziest fucking action scene in the movie. You don't start out Two Towers in the middle of the Battle of Helm's Deep. The MCU lacks suspense. They lack build-up. They lack tension. And then we go straight from that action scene to a wedding scene, which I thought was the best scene in the movie, where Doctor Strange is at Christine's wedding when she's getting married to another man. He's having to watch the girl that he loves get married to another man, and he's trying not to cause a scene or, you know, say something, but he wants to talk to her, and he tells her, like, you know, I wish I could have been different, and, like, things could have been different if I had been different, and I recognize that now, and I thought that was a beautiful scene. But then the scene gets cut short because a giant fucking octopus eyeball thing is attacking the city, and Doctor Strange needs to go that. The film couldn't take 5 minutes for a serious fucking scene between two grown-ups talking about their relationship that had to jump you right into another random-ass CGI-filled action scene with the fucking eyeball squid. Crazy-ass action scene. intimate wedding like conversation, crazy ass action scene. It's such a messy ass film, and it keeps jumping straight into the middle of this nonsense with no tension or build up. That eyeball monster could have been cool in like a fucking horror-esque Cloverfield scene. Maybe some build up to that, and that could have been cool in the movie. But they just jump into it. Everything in this movie looks like it's filmed at fucking noon. There is nothing scary for the first MCU horror movie about noon. Everything is so bright. It looks like, and I know it's like a Sam Raimi film, but it feels like a Kevin Feige Marvel movie, and he let Sam Raimi direct a few scenes, because there's a few scenes where you're like, oh yeah, that looks like a Sam Raimi movie, kind of. But everything is fucking bright-ass studio lights, looks like they walked into Walmart. So much green screen around them, you could tell that the CGI, there's this scene where they're on like a rooftop, Wong and Doctor Strange, and it looks so bad. The opening scene, the action scene in space, looked like it was out of Shark Boy and Lava Girl. I wish they focused on Wanda and the Scarlet Witch and made this a horror film about Scarlet Witch. But they were too bogged down by like non-stop action scenes and jokes and fucking nonsense, and this felt like tonally like the messiest MCU movie I ever seen. It didn't know what the fuck it wanted to be. And the multiverse is so convoluted at this point that now America Ferrera can just punch a fucking hole and jump into another multiverse. What's the point of any of these characters dying anymore? Tony Stark has died, but who cares? Probably infinite more Tony Starks exist. Just go and get another Tony Stark, and there you go. Just go and get another Captain America. It doesn't matter that one died, because there's infinite ones. And also, in Spider-Man No Way Home, which did the multiverse much better, and that movie was much better, how come all the different Spider-Mans looked different? They were different people. It was like Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield. They had similar life experiences, but it was like through different avenues. All these multiverse Doctor Stranges are Doctor Strange. That's not consistent. This movie's not consistent with the rest of what the MCU is doing with the multiverse. Now, the action scene when, spoilers again, Reed Richards comes in and Professor X comes in and all that shit. I really like when Scarlet Witch was like that, covered in blood, barefoot with the blue jeans and the sweater, just like bloody and fucking murdering people violently. I love that shit. That shit felt like Sam Raimi was directing it, and he got to take his movie away from the Marvel fucking conveyor belt just pumping shit out. But those good scenes in this movie are few and far between. Like, I like that wedding conversation. I like that scene where the Scarlet Witch massacres everyone and she's in those tunnels. Alright, so my phone died and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to Dunkin' to get a latte. But you want an example? I'm assuming you've all seen this movie. You want an example of just the lack of tension and setup and good writing of this movie? You remember when Wanda threatens Doctor Strange and she's like, if you don't bring me the America girl by sundown, I'm gonna go to Comertage and I'm gonna get her. So then we cut to a scene of Doctor Strange at Comertage talking to Wong and everyone, and he's like, the Scarlet Witch is coming for America if we don't bring her America by sundown. And then Wong's like, we have to fortify Comertage. And then they walk outside and Wanda's already there. You remember the Battle of fucking Helm's Deep in Two Towers? How much fucking setup they had and fortification they had for that battle? It wasn't like you walk out and there's a million orcs out front the second that they mention the battle. And then the way that she ultimately breaks through their shield, like they have the force field, you know, and she whispers to the one guy holding up the force field, and she's like, run. If that dude would have just turned and ran like a normal person, like she told him to, the force field still would have worked. But instead what he did is he ran while swatting everybody, so he messed up their force field. She didn't say run and swat and shove everybody and mess up the force field. She just said run. But thankfully, that guy was stupid enough to run and swat at everyone who was holding up a force field, so she was able to pierce through. But all movies are subjective. It's just my opinion that it's a bad movie, and I believe we're all being blinded by Marvel and Disney as they conveyor belt just feed us this shit that we're supposed to like it. But it's not good. It's not good. Anyways, those are my thoughts on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I thought this movie was incredibly disappointing. I think it's one of Sam Raimi's worst movies. I think it's one of the worst MCU movies. And it's the first MCU movie I've ever fallen asleep in watching, because I just lost all care for it. But when Wanda murders the Illuminati and like like that whole scene. That was fucking awesome. And some of the Scarlet Witch stuff was cool. And the wedding scene, all 2 minutes that it lasted, was pretty sweet. That's gonna be it for me. I'm over to Multiverse. Check out my Etsy. I make hand-painted, horror-based hats and movie-based hats. Check it out. Thanks for watching. Peace.